No doubt, the match you've all been waiting for. Our final matchup today for our latest edition of the Quake Pro League is going to be Rapha head-to-head against RAISY. A rivalry as old as time when it comes to Quake champions, and just never disappoints. It's a fantastic showing all the time, and Flea, we can only hope it can continue to be that.
I mean, we have two of the biggest names within the Quake Pro League going up against one another, right? First of all, we've got Rapha, the undisputed #1 on the leaderboards right now, with a significant lead over literally anyone else, right? Yes, he's played more games than the rest of the top 5, but even accounting for that, today's outcome isn't going to dethrone him in any way. The man is on an absolute tear, having suffered just one loss this entire season, and that was against Zeneku.
But looking at the players he has already defeated, that is where things get scary. Rapha has been able to defeat the likes of Wenger. We've seen Kilson in there. Convincing victories against, the 3-0 against Strong Sage, 3-0 against Chain, Dramis, Avec. Like, there are players left to go, and that's obviously what brings the significance of this match, the fact that he's going up against RAISY in particular. But he's already defeated Kilson here. He's already defeated Wenger here. There's not a lot of players left that you can look at and go, this could be a really, really close match. And I do not mean that to be disrespectful. I mean that, just clearly within the world of Quake Pro League, the leaderboards are here for a rather clear reason. And this is where best of the best go head to head. RAISY, he is the eternal rival. RAISY is one of those players that has always been right up there, bringing the challenge, providing that experience. However, I think he would feel much better if he can take the win today.
Oh, he most definitely would. And if we look at his stats for the season, it's clear that he very well could. 2 losses, one against Kilson the very first week, one against Strong Sage, to the surprise of many. But other than that, RAISY has had a phenomenal track record. We were talking about the 3-0 SketchUp. Look at that. Chain, Dramis, Zeneku, Chron, Saigib, in a row without dropping a map. Then he lost one map to Avec, and again, clean sweep against Nasva in his most recent showing. RAISY, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the most talented players in the game right now. And if anyone is going to take it to Rapha this season still, I think it might very well be him.
Well, it's a good thing you say that, because we're not too far away from actually finding out what's going to happen here. Now, what we're definitely going to need to have a real look at here is the picks and bans, because these are 2 players in particular that take an exceptional amount of time thinking about what they want to do for those picks and bans, and it all stems off you know what? I'm just going to stop what I was saying, because map 1, we get Clutch versus Athena immediately. Veil of Nath, BJ versus Ranger. Deep Embrace as our final map. The first time we're seeing that today, and it's Anarchy versus the Strog. I gotta say, Athena versus Clutch with these two is not the first time we've ever seen this matchup either. If memory serves, Rapha has been able to defeat this Clutch on this map with that champion before.
He's even done it to RAISY way back in 2020 in devastating fashion as well. He was one of the first to really overcome RAISY on Clutch by pulling out the Athena. RAISY lost 3 kills to Rapha's 15, which was a devastating result for people who just watched RAISY steamroll everyone with the Clutch. So Rapha really one of the first to kind of introduce this Athena as a counter to Clutch, and it has really worked well for him in the past. Now let's see if RAISY has adapted, if he's got a strategy to go up against this, but the stack difference is going to be monumental. Clutch is of course still a very fast champion in the right hands, but Athena, she can maneuver like none other, and Rapha is going to have to play a defensive game, keep his distance, and really rely a lot on the rail. Now map 2, Veil of Nav, much more standard, right? BJ versus Ranger, very typical matchup. And then finally, Deep Embrace, Strog versus Anarchy. Looking at these picks and bans, it is going to be extremely difficult to call. So I just have, perhaps some history before we dive into this. They have played each other in grand finals alone. So grand finals within the Quake Pro League 3 times. Both of these in the grand final. Rapha winning all of them. Now, if we also look at their other matches, they've played a total of 10 times during the Quake Pro League, and Rapha has won 8 of those. But RAISY secured the most recent one. So this one is really up in the air.
Now, I gotta say instantly, chat has a clear-cut favorite. The people at home vote in the favor of Rapha 75%. So there's a clear favorite here for you lovely folks watching the stream. And I can't blame you. I certainly can't blame you. Someone in chat quite rightly pointed out as well that Athena is a different champion now. You've got one less grapple hook to deal with. So as it was some time ago, it's now the 2 rather than the 3 of old. And kind of when you think about that, that could have some sort of importance, because one thing Clutch can always do, it's dash at a moment's notice. If you've got 2 grapple hooks rather than 3, that could be a rather different story in certain situations where RAISY would normally be able to get away and go boom, zoom, off he's gone. The flying fridge of death is now nowhere to be found. It's by far the biased Clutch fan in me is excited for the first map the most, because I'm a real sucker for unusual matchups and stuff that you don't get to see all that often. I've just been informed we are going to go for a quick lobby restart. So we'll be jumping into that first map as soon as we can. And restarts don't take too long, do they? I'm going to say with my fingers crossed, I just hope that everything works out.
Yeah, just baiting us all just a little bit longer as we are loading once again into Blood Covenant. So first matchup, and this is, I think, the most exciting one of the day. Just this map, right? Clutch versus Athena. Rapha is going to have to be so calculated in how he uses those hooks. But on the other hand, right, also important to note is that Clutch isn't the same champion that he once was either, right? There's been some changes to him over the years as well. The effectiveness of his shield, for instance, has been a big change. So this is just gonna be a spicy one. Rapha, for him, the objective, the imperative is going to be keep your distance, use the rail, force out that shield, get away, and then re-engage when it's down. I think that that's going to be the general strategy, the game plan going into this. Whereas for RAISY, is the complete opposite. Force out the hook, maybe just one, close the gap, pop the shield, finish him off, and just overwhelm him with your stack advantage. So who's gonna get the upper hand? We're about to find out. Oh, and also worth noting for those who didn't, Rapha is currently staying within EU. So all of these matches are going to be played on European servers where both players have sub 20 ping. So there should be no concerns when it comes to latency.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Yo, Flea, do you remember when Clutch didn't even have the air dash?
I remember.
And he had still defense. If he was standing still, he took less damage from rails. Does anyone remember that? Because I remember that. That was a long time ago. However, more important matters afoot as we have begun here between RAISY and Rapha. And we shall see how far we can go. Grapple hook used immediately just to obtain that rail, of which is going to be rather important. Range. Especially against this champion here. But there's if there's anything Clutch forces upon you, it's you have to match the pace and you have to be ready to throw down at a moment's notice. He is one of the most intimidating champions to fight, let alone at this level of play.
Slow start so far. We saw RAISY attempting to pressure Rapha a few times, but defensive rockets have been on point for Rapha. I should say defensive rocket, one chunky one was all it took. Now both players,
big one.
Both are just slow walking around the map. Oh, there we go. Players get sight of one another. Oh, Rapha stopped in his tracks, rail to the face. RAISY pushing in, LG comes out. Rapha, can he escape? 7 points of health. RAISY will clean it up. Super Shotty comes out to play.
Enough there as well, Flea.
Yeah.
because he only had 2 grapple hooks and not the third, that third would have got him out in that situation. So who knows? Maybe this is a new experience with 2 very, very, very different champions. How they once began, but now RAISY, oh, impressive vertical shot, but is it enough to survive? Not quite, as rapha manages to just get in and out.
I have the same reaction RAISY did, just complete confusion.
I think I blinked. Yeah, I think I blinked.
Where did he go? Where did he go? I think he just like hooked and swung around, right? He actually did the loop-de-loop, flying back up underneath RAISY, coming up behind him, because RAISY, I think, was just like, okay, I landed that rail to the face, he's below me, and then all of a sudden rapha was right there with him.
We should watch that in an instant replay later on. Now, 1 frag apiece here, and the patience has got to be true. But this patience is only going to last so long, because it's almost an inevitability that eventually that fight's going to break out. The fridge is going to be mad, the lights are going to go on, and that shield's going to come out. You're going to be in big trouble. rapha doing a good job at matching this, but he has got to be very careful himself. That was where, I believe it was a shotgun there from RAISY. Did enough to force rapha at least to retreat, but there's an element of things just being a bit uncomfortable at the moment, swapping to the shotgun last minute. No choice rapha has there but to simply shrug it off, because we now have 7 minutes left to go. Plenty of time to make magic happen.
Good decision from
using this
RAISY.
opportunity for the armor.
Yeah, good decision from RAISY not to go for the heavy. He didn't have his shields, so if he would have gone for it, rapha would have just pushed him off the spawn and likely gotten the frag. So RAISY, careful play. Being a little bit evasive right now, realizing that, you know, even playing a light champion, rapha is lethal off spawn. LG, a little bit shaky from RAISY right there. Definitely nothing as much as we might expect him to.
This whole map in general has not been a standard. It hasn't been a standard Athena map, and it hasn't been a standard clutch map. These are 2 champions you would always expect to bring an element of just explosive, constant aggression, but maneuverability is something both players are more than aware of, and neither player wants to put themselves in a bad spot. rapha with 6 HP remaining secures that one, but you get a frag against someone with barely any health remaining, and you're against someone like Clutch, that's a new challenge in itself. Good thing for rapha, he keeps the timing and he cycles these items, and he's back up to at least a level of healthy. Nothing that can contest with just how much armor RAISY's working on, but a foundation at least.
I think one of the most concerning things for RAISY is that rapha has finally started to hit some rails. I don't know if you noticed, SketchUp, but rapha landed 0 rails for the opening 4 minutes. Not a single one connected. He fired 6 shots, missed all of them on Clutch. But now, he's finally starting to land those shots, and that's one of Clutch's big weaknesses, of course. And if rapha can get comfortable, finally, consistently getting those 90 damage pot shots off, RAISY could be in a lot of trouble.
Some of these instances, though, rapha favoring the heavy machine gun. I do think there's a real element of reliability from the heavy machine gun versus the rail from a range like that, especially against someone like Clutch. The LG 1v1 favors rapha, as he does enough damage to take out Clutch for another time. 2 frags in the lead now. We're over that halfway point. Watch these rails, ready for the air dash. I mean, that's just preparation. rapha knows that there's no way that's a regular jump. There's going to be a dash afterwards. Wait for the dash, punish it with the rail.
Like RAISY's aim has been failing him, Ketchup. Some of these situations where he gets close and uses the shield, I'm surprised he's unable to clean up the frag. Because rapha is just hitting him so much harder, because yeah, of course, RAISY's got the bigger hitbox. But even then, I feel like we're seeing RAISY missing a lot, losing his tracking in those close combat engagements, whiffing a lot of rockets. And he should be making them count.
It's the dynamic of Clutch. Clutch can be overwhelming and overbearing. A champion that many players hate to fight. However, one thing about Clutch is that he's nowhere near as easy to win with as you might think. There is a high skill gap required at this level of play because you are so large and because you are so easy to hit, you've got to hit your shots perfectly, because if you don't, you're getting out damaged every single step of the way. If you get caught on a single piece of wall or a door frame, you're toast. And RAISY himself has explained that many, many times. So it really enforces your point that, look, if RAISY's not hitting these shots so good, he's kind of put himself at a disadvantage. Here comes rapha again with yet another frag.
I mean, there's a reason.
Old RAISY so far.
There's a reason why there's only, what, 3 players who consistently brave the clutch pick, right? That alone shows how difficult he is, even for some of the best players in the world. Now, enter the final 3 minutes of this map. rapha, 3 points in the lead. RAISY looking for an opening. Mega's about to spawn. There we go, that's a good rail. RAISY doesn't have the tools really to push in. Didn't have the LG, nor the super shoddy to maybe go for the drop down. So slow playing it a little bit more. Both players eyeing the heavy. RAISY is actually going to burn the shield just so he can secure the item pickup.
I feel like there's an element of just preparation in regards to that. You know, I need to get these items and I need to keep rapha away from as many of them as possible here, because I've got 2 minutes left to go. I've got to get 3 frags. If rapha gets his hands on any of these important items, that's time I can't really afford to play around with. And actually dropping down, punishing that second rail. Yeah, the rail hit its mark, but you're still stuck in that cooldown. RAISY is going to handle it quite comfortably. 2 more to go, tie things up, and absolutely time to get it done. One thing RAISY's not going to have as much time off, though, is the chase down. You know, rapha, you got to get rid of some of these grappling hooks first. It's going to naturally happen as a part of the game. You know, rapha to move around is going to use them, but I doubt he's going to just spend them before RAISY appears. You're going to need something to escape with. Armor's about to spawn. Likely rapha's going to concede. Yep. Puts himself in that bad position. He would risk an absolute close range encounter he does not want to deal with. rapha's going to prioritize positioning above all else. I need to have a backup plan. I need to have an escape plan. Ooh. Ooh, rocket.
Oh, RAISY, such an opportunity and he squanders it.
Oh, that could even be the decider, though, because
It
rapha
very well
now,
could be.
he's had time to retreat. I doubt he's going to go near this heavy again because it's too much of a risk, but path RAISY took, a perilous path punished by rapha, and the shotgun to secure it. That's a GG on that first map, and now rapha can safely pick up the heavy without being at risk.
I feel like rapha even handed him quite the opportunity there, you know? Instead of dropping straight down, rapha dropped to the middle level, just beneath RAISY, in plain view of the clutch. That was really kind of handing RAISY an opportunity. If he would have landed his shots right there, it would have been a 1-frag game with a minute left to go. So RAISY kind of squandered that, unable to do the damage. And that's what I've been saying for much of this game, catch-up. RAISY, yeah, kind of missing a few too many shots in these critical engagements, not putting out the level of damage that we're used to seeing, and rapha is obviously running a mile with it.
rapha played absolutely fantastic and kind of just approached that game plan with the correct way, right? You know, keep your escape options over, never get trapped in a horrible position here. And then at the same time, you know, you've got to make sure that you're punishing situations. RAISY, going into the clutch pick, there is always naturally a high expectation that you need to execute really well to make the champion work. I saw your reaction. Did you look at RAISY's accuracy at the end of the match?
Yeah, and also the damage output mainly. rapha had 4k damage, RAISY had like 2.2, 2.3. That's a gnarly difference. But indeed, the accuracy as well. RAISY hit 25% railgun accuracy, even against an Athena. Like, you need to be hitting more than that. And also his LG, I think he dealt 500 damage with the lightning gun. And of course, as clutch, you kind of want to avoid most of these lightning gun fights. But rapha forced them out quite consistently, and RAISY just wasn't there to rival it. Like, look, 1,800 LG damage for rapha versus just 800 from RAISY. 3,900 damage total versus 2,300. Yeah, 25% rail. Just 8 shots landed out of the 31 that RAISY fired. That just shows that there was a lot of issues with his aim that game. Could have gone very differently if RAISY was landing the shots that I think we were expecting him to.
It is but one single map, though, I suppose. There's a chance for things to get cleaned up as we go into the remaining two, and the remaining two are going to be a more, shall we say, traditional state. We're going to have the two mediums here, the BJ versus the Ranger, and then Deep Embrace with Anarchy versus Strog. So I think, you know, Blood Covenant, that matchup in particular, there was always going to be an element of just uniqueness, if that's even a word. So we'll leave that in the past where it is and hope that for RAISY's sake, he's able to tighten up that aiming a little bit, because he's going to have to for the rest of this series, because now you've got a dual-wielding BJ as your next opponent on a small map where combat is regular and rather heavy. So for his sake, he's going to have to make sure he's tightened things up just a little bit, because rapha, that's not going to phase him in any way.
It sure won't, but things, you know, in terms of hitbox at least, we've seen some significant changes, right? rapha is going to be easier to hit, RAISY is going to be a lot more difficult to hit, so hopefully that is going to equalize the damage output a bit, help RAISY regain some of that confidence in his aim, because we all know that he's capable of doing it, right? We know that he is mechanically one of the most gifted players in the league, right? Like, you don't look at him and say, oh, you know, his LG is like, you know, serious his aim or toxics, but just across the board, RAISY is just so consistent with everything. You can never count out his aim. But today, yeah, maybe we can. So I really hope for his sake that he regains that composure and finally starts slapping his opponent around a bit.
Oh, we're just about to find out if that's going to happen, Flea, because the Veil of Nath is about to begin. rapha and RAISY, the second map here. A legendary rivalry between two legends of Quake champions here. Looks like we're checking things out from rapha's point of view first. It's going to take a little bit of extra time to pick up that rocket, as his opponent had already collected it. But an LG in hand and a rail. So in theory, kind of everything Quake player needs to make magic happen with this dual wield as a possibility. I am curious over who's going to pull that trigger on the ability first, because we're so used to seeing Ranger be the one that forces the respect out of the opponent. Those close range orb encounters can be so game changing, but now you've got BJ, two LGs at a moment's notice, two rockets, two super shotguns, whatever it is.
Right.
Just lets you match that damage just a little bit.
Barely a minute in, we've already got a massive delay between the items. 12 seconds between Mega and Heavy. rapha being the one looking to take advantage of it. He's already set up for Heavy. Oh, that's a big rocket. RAISY doesn't make it across. Oh, he fumbles the orb as well.
That's a huge mistake, Flea. rapha punishing that harder than anything, but that kind of hurt to watch.
That's rough. That's so rough. I like how rapha continues playing, just, you know, setting a trap at the small armor, knowing that that's what RAISY would want off spawn. Ends up picking it up himself, but for a moment there he was waiting patiently. Clever on the drop down as well. And now RAISY. He's struggling. Super shoddy LG, it's all he's got to work with. He's on time for Mega, but oh no, the LG into the rail finds its mark, and rapha already 3 frags of a lead.
I gotta say, Flea, uncharacteristic from RAISY. We are not often do we see mistakes like this, let alone in rather crucial series. Starting off this map with one hell of a disaster here near Heavy, punished by rapha, and then continues the pressure. RAISY fighting back. And the second rail that would have finished. No, and he teleports behind, not even looking in the right direction. Flea, I do not know what is going on right now, but it is a damn shame.
It sure is. Like, even with the dual wields, RAISY outdamaged rapha in that fight. And then he just goes blindly for the orb, landing right in front of rapha's shotgun. Now the American 4 frags up already.
Unfortunately, though, has only been 3 minutes on the clock, so there's more time to make up for, but and that's a good punish. Really good punish on that jump pad as RAISY cements a frag. The first one of this map, but can sometimes be all it needs for you to shrug it off, shake it off. Got to get back up on top here. I don't mean the high ground, although I guess that transition did kind of work. Here comes the dual wield now for rapha. Close range. The rocket, it even went through the floor. That was just bad fortune. But either way, he secures another one. All right, RAISY, we can just pretend the last 3 minutes never happened, mate. And we're now fresh in and we're good to go.
That aim of his is still too inconsistent for my liking. Though I don't think he landed a single rocket during the opening of that previous engagement. Yeah, he walked away with the frag, but that could have very easily gone wrong. Now it's LG on LG. RAISY persists, secures himself the kill as well, starting to close the gap. Just 1 point separating these players. The problem for RAISY right now is that he doesn't have a particularly convincing stack to just hold his own for heavy. RAISY, what are you doing? Can he finish it? Indeed, he can. I like the play there, though. It almost went wrong, but he fired the orb purely to distract rapha and then just dropped straight down with the LG. It worked. It's a tight game. RAISY is now kind of relegated to the outskirts of the map. Has to give up Mega. It's already in position for heavy. That's a good rail. A little bit more damage should nearly guarantee him this item. There we go.
Rapha going in for a major push to simply try and scare RAISY off the heavy to eliminate any chance of it being picked up, and he just paid the price as RAISY matched it with 2 rails back to back to say, excuse me, sir, I would like this item, please. And now it's 5-4, looking like it could be evened up though now. An aggressive push is made and these rockets are not hitting where they need to hit, and now an even game yet again. This is by far the most unusual map I think we've seen today. We've had a bit of everything, I think, Flea. But
it's
now,
true.
as we've hit that halfway point, things are starting to ramp up and looks like we're starting to get a bit more comfortable here across the board. And that's exactly what you want to see. rapha, tons more stack compared to his opponent. And one alarming thing, that RAISY doesn't really have the weapons for this range of fight. And LG was all he had. No shotgun, no rocket launcher. He's just picked one up, but he had to give up a lot of positioning to see that done. And now the Mega is going to get picked up here again by rapha, and looking likely heavy's going to go in his favor as well. Dual wield, locked and loaded and good to go. RAISY has to play a rather careful defensive game here to prevent himself from just getting overwhelmed and repeating what we started with, where rapha just ran off with it.
Good plays from RAISY, though. Just look at the stacks. rapha had a sizable stack advantage just a moment ago, but RAISY, with that defensive play of his, nearly tying them up. rapha, taking another rail. Is he gonna stick around for heavy? There we go, out comes the dual wield. RAISY still pushing in, orb comes out, LG on LG, rails. Neither player drops a frag. Both take a lot of damage, will lick their wounds, restack. Now Mega. Gonna be the next major item to be contested. RAISY has got the high ground, but damn, that's a beautiful rail through the grades, and RAISY makes good work of that 90 damage advantage that he gave himself at the start.
There's no getting around the fact that the first 3 minutes of this map were a grade A disaster for poor old RAISY, but I gotta say, what a wonderful job he has done of bringing this back. Not only tying things up, but taking the lead and actually being in position to maybe even secure another one. rapha unable to hit it, teleporting straight up there for an aggressive push, and that will be RAISY taking another frag here. Now 2 separates the 2 players with enough time for rapha to mount a comeback. However, this is a good situation for RAISY. The next objective, heavy, of which he is in a much better position to do something about. Drop down and take it. rapha, second too late to that.
I feel like the Mega is really turning out to be a bit of a death trap for rapha. It's many of these fights where he drops a frag, it's at heavy, or Mega I mean, where he shows up. And RAISY somehow gets the upper hand still. Now rapha down towards the railgun side of the map. 2 minutes, 2 frags, perfectly doable. RAISY.
rapha, I mean, everything Everything about Rapha, no doubt, wants to push, wants to make a comeback happen, wants to put the aggression on, but he's having to show so much respect to the orb. Now the orb is gone. I do wonder if this is going to alter how Rapha's able to make some decisions. Obviously not right now. He took tons of damage and he has to disengage, but he now knows that the threat of the orb is no longer there.
I love that play. Love that play from RAISY. Just want to point that out. Like, he left both the armor and the mega up just to go for another round against Rapha, knowing that he had armor and health waiting behind him. And that's just give him so much confidence to now put himself yet another frag ahead of his opponent.
Now, although that time where orb was gone might have given Rapha some level of footing. Oh, the drop down punished really heavily though as RAISY secures another one. And it is just going from bad to worse now for Rapha, who is trying so hard to push. He's trying to make his presence known on these items. He's trying to do something about it, but constantly taking too much damage. That rail alone, the BJ scream heard, as it always is. The killing spree appears for RAISY 5 in a row now to make it 10-5 as what could be a final count. RAISY, what can be said about his ability to somehow turn what is one of the most disastrous beginnings to a map and turn it into 11-5 lead against Rapha of all people? This is why RAISY is just such a joy to watch. You never know what's gonna happen, and here we go. Mate, we're tying this up. We're going into a decider for Deep Embrace, and it's the first time we've seen Deep Embrace all day. How fitting.
That LG, that was just foul. Ketchup. Rapha, 1 with the dual wield, 2 playing the head glitch, only basically showing his head and shoulders peeking over that ledge, and RAISY like a monster gluing his crosshair to Rapha's face to get that frag. Now this is exciting. Once again, bringing it down to the tiebreaker. We've seen both of these players been in this exact situation, but then not for a weekly, but on the grand stage for a grand final of the Quake Pro League season. And now we're getting it all for free during a normal weekly. This is insane.
You love to see it, and that's what we're all here for. You know, a lot of people were talking about in chat before we came out of this break. You know, I'd seen people talk about how this is arguably one of the biggest matches of the season that we've seen so far. Yeah, we are in a weekly stage right now, but how often do you get to see what has been a rather reoccurring grand finals match to end out the entire year happen in one of the Quake weeklies? It's been a real treat so far, and I gotta say, the opening 3 minutes of this map were a disaster for RAISY. So much went wrong. We were confused. I'm sure the people at home were confused. I'm sure RAISY was confused. I'm not sure if Rapha really cared all that much because he was just doing his thing, but the recovery, that is the most impressive thing about this map, was RAISY's legendary recovery to not only tie it up, but then take a sizable lead. And now, Flea, we are in a tie situation. This final map of Deep Embrace is going to decide who takes it. Yeah. And this is the final match of the day. I mean, you can't invent this storyline. It's too good.
You sure cannot. And the final picks for Deep Embrace, first time we're seeing it, as you mentioned, are Anarchy, being played by RAISY versus Strock by Rapha. Now this is going to be a little tricky for RAISY, I feel like, because yes, he's got the air control, yes, he's got the inject, but Deep Embrace is a small map, and he spawns without any armor to his name, whereas Rapha's got the Strock, he's also got mobility, he's got the Peeker, plus every single kill he gets, he walks away with another extra 25 points of health. I think for RAISY, it's going to be extremely important to get control of that high ground, right? Get control of that upper level of the map consistently and not allowing Rapha to get comfortable there.
Well, we are mere moments away from seeing how it's going to go here, Flea, and I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone that's tuned in for today's show. It has been a wild day, I think, to say the least. We've had some really unpredictable matches. We've had some great stories continuing, and it all is going to end tonight, right now. Our final match of the day between 2 legends of Quake champions. The eternal rivalry continues, and how fitting it is that this is the decider map for map 3. Deep Embrace, first time we've seen it today. And at this stage, there's only one thing left to do, which is to jump in, find out who's going to win the bloody thing. But it's been a great day so far. It's been great to be back here with you, Flea, and we're ready
Likewise.
for 10 more minutes of
Here we
wonderful
go.
Quake champions.
Now, chat, give us some hype. I already saw some at the beginning. I want to see some rapha, some RAISY love in the chat. Make yourself heard. It all comes down to this. Rapha versus RAISY on Deep Embrace.
This was a live crowd, I'd say make some noise, but that doesn't really work here, does it? We have to adapt on the fly to these online shows, you see. But looking at things from Rapha's point of view first, already the game of information. Clear as day. Deep Embrace, one of the smallest maps in the pool. Could even be the smallest, but I'll leave that to the experts of the maps themselves. There's got to be a statistical smallest map.
Deep Embrace definitely in the running. There we go. Out comes the peeker. Oh! Rapha. Damn near making a bit of a mistake right there. Peeker kind of flew by RAISY. Managed to land a single rail, unable to transform it into more. But it is RAISY who's walked away with both the heavy and the mega. That's a big rocket. That's a big rocket. But Rapha retaliates with an excellent rail of his own, culling RAISY's stack. Making sure that he doesn't get too comfy on the map. And just like that, Rapha making good use of that crouch slide, that speed to steal away the heavy, knowing that there's no way that RAISY could beat him there after he saw him over at Rockets.
Showing the sheer importance of return damage in a matchup like this. The difference between the opponent just pushing in and securing a frag and just keeping yourself alive. Dare I say, even being able to return damage that can put a situation in there for you. Rapha very, very carefully finds himself around that corner, secures a rail. Third shot that would have secured the frag didn't quite hit its mark, but it has kept RAISY significantly behind. Enough so that now Rapha clean, able to take that heavy without trouble. RAISY was not ready for that ambush.
Oh, yeah.
Whether he just couldn't hear him or anything like that. I don't suppose Rapha was making too much noise in that situation either way. Look at the stack difference.
Thing is, it was not just the heavy catch-up, it was every single shred of armor on the map. Rapha strategically going for a rocket jump while standing on the small armor to deny it to RAISY, looping around the other one, and then picking up heavy. Makes it so that there is absolutely nothing, zero armor on the map for RAISY to pick up. And as a light champion, you are always starved for more armor. Good rocket. RAISY holding Rapha at bay with the LG. The damage is solid. No rails will connect. And RAISY steals away the mega at least, but he wants heavy, preferably so. Oh, good use of the peeker. Perfect read from Rapha. And RAISY unable to take it down in time.
The extra added bonus, not only getting damage from that kamikaze, but at the same time, just having that visual information. You're in that situation where you're taking a lot of damage there and you're trying to make yourself a lot safer, especially seeing as there was considerable time until that heavy had spawned at the time, I have to say. It's about to appear again. 6 seconds. The race towards, I would say, because there's definitely going to be a fight here. Rapha in position. RAISY playing it safe, understanding that Rapha was already in a better place to take that, and I'm not going to risk it. The inject is down as well. Rapha, full control over this map. And now I think that Rapha's going to be on the hunt. You know you've got the stack advantage, got plenty of ammo for your weapons. You've even got a peeker should you need it. And this is a perfect chance. RAISY with the defensive rockets. Enough to somewhat slow down Rapha here. But it's taken long enough that Rapha can now retreat back to this heavy and continue the rotation of these major items. 1-0. That's the only difference between these two players so far. It's looked like Rapha's been in control for a lot of it. Scoreline suggests not so much.
I mean, for the level of control that Rapha has had over the items for these previous 2 minutes, RAISY has done a terrific job keeping this just a one frag game. A lot of people would have seen a very different scoreline by now. And RAISY's LG on point, good damage being exchanged, both players railable.
The risk. Oh, the risk. I gotta say, RAISY rocket jumped, leaving himself with barely 1 HP in the tank, and it was enough to set up a rail angle that I don't think Rapha was prepared for, but no, the surprise attack. RAISY did the maths perfectly to keep himself alive with a rocket jump that almost tied things up, and he could not secure the frag. And now rapha in the lead by one more. We're about to hit that halfway point as well, folks. And remember, this is the decider map. It's one apiece right now, Flea.
6 points of health is all that rapha needed to clean up that frag. It is incredible that he just held his ground right there, stood tall, and just read RAISY perfectly with that one defensive rocket. rapha, such a disciplined player. This level of insight really is unmatched. And now, this is a situation that I was worried about. rapha, control of the items, plus usually the one on the high ground, that upper level of the map. And RAISY just doing anything he can to try and find his way back in. That's a good rail, that's gonna help out a lot. rapha unable now to make a play for the heavy. Has to retreat, fall back, give up the armor to his opponent. Actually, RAISY not even interested in it. Heavy still up. Only now does he make a move on it. And now rapha is in position to maybe punish him. Nope, he's the one who gets punished. RAISY finally starting to land some of these rails.
Awesome, delicious LG as RAISY comes bolting it around that corner, though. The rocket placement is fantastic for rapha. 2 super shotgun blasts into say good night. Thank you very much. 3-0. It's now going to be an inject, and RAISY, fresh off the spawn, probably did not want to fight that all too much. There comes the rocket. Dude, the intensity in this matchup. rapha, I mean, well aware of this situation. He's been doing a wonderful job of keeping things contained here, but it has been a low-scoring game. At a moment's notice, RAISY could turn this one round. He saw it on the Veil, and another frag. rapha caught going round the opposite end. I mean, just might have made the call. Perhaps RAISY's looking somewhere else. Either way, one more frag to tie things up. Time wasting, and maybe more importantly, using up some of that LG ammo, perhaps. Rail doesn't hit its mark. It misses. Flea.
I like the play, going for the rocket jump instead of going the long way around, but, you know, you're a light champion, your stack is gonna be suffering even more from that self-damage, and then you need to hit that rail. RAISY's lucky to get out of that one alive.
The situation is what it is. There's 2.5 minutes are left to go. RAISY needs to take those blessings and do something with them to mount a comeback. One frag required to tie things up. And every time there is an angle to take, rapha is ready to punish it. That was LG into rail, massive amounts of damage, and now RAISY has to disengage, pick up those light pickups on the map, wait around for his inject to become ready. Is he going to use it straight away? Looks like he is. Using the inject plus the rail shot. I mean, that's just going to create a bigger gap between you and your opponent. rapha unable to land that final rocket that no doubt would have secured a trade situation. RAISY has taken tons of damage, however. He has to wait around for this mega. He must be feeling a bit nervous right now because that took a considerable amount of time to come back, and there is still no armor to play with, and rapha surely knows it.
I think that RAISY not having timing actually saved him right there, because rapha was just not expecting him to be on Mega already. rapha was like, he's no doubt going to be hanging out at LG, but RAISY was just so early that rapha kind of overlooked it. Now Heavy's about to spawn.
Frustrating on rapha's side, to be fair, in hindsight. And here comes the armor. RAISY was sitting around there for good reason. It's going to be the catalyst that keeps him alive in this, but that opening rail had other plans. rapha, that rail didn't secure a frag, but what it did do is guarantee that that mega health was going to go to Hibbs without any issues whatsoever. And now RAISY's in trouble. 66 health, and he's more than railable at this health. And a rail if you're lucky. There's more others that can take you out here. Rocket, LG. Oh, in that case, it's going to be a delicious rail. 60 seconds on the clock now, Flea, and it's going to be rapha in the lead, narrowly. But it's the armor I'm looking at, and it's the armor I'm worried about.
If RAISY can walk away with this mega without taking too much damage, he's in a good spot, but no, he takes a bad rail, plus that peeker, no dot, he's gonna drop down dead here, and with 2 frags down, rapha forcing a bad respawn for RAISY. I think this is going to decide the outcome. Catch up. RAISY, he came so close. He's still pushing in aggressively with the super shoddy. But there we go. GG's are called. RAISY had an excellent opportunity. Damn near taking home the 2-1 victory, but Rapha proved to be too strong, insurmountable even. And that means that the player for Liquid, the American currently in Europe, is going to secure the highlight game of the day. Congratulations, Rapha.
The story of Rapha and RAISY is seemingly never ending, isn't it, Flea? They have continually had these back and forth matches where it goes down to that final exchange. Sadly, it does seem to remain consistent in that RAISY can't quite get the victory at the end, but how close he was. And a nice little almost taste of things to come, because we are reaching the later stages of these weeklies now. It's not long until we go into the finals, where we could, for another time, this could be our grand finals of the year. I would just assume we'll have more maps to play with at that point, but don't quote me on that. What is more to say here that hasn't been said a million times over? It's a legendary rivalry for good reason. And today is just another chapter in that history book as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. Keep in mind, right? RAISY's nickname, the Godslayer, all came from him taking down Rapha before the Quake Pro League was even a thing, when Rapha was just winning everything left and right, and RAISY coming down from the lower brackets, got the full reset, and then ended up beating Rapha on stage in the grand final. But unfortunately for him, he has been unable to replicate that during the Quake Pro League itself. So Rapha continues to reign supreme. Out of the 11 matches they've played, Rapha has now secured his 9th win. So congratulations again to him. Superb, polished, perfect across the board.
You used a word to describe him in the third map that I can't help but agree with. Discipline. That is the #1 word, I think, that describes Rapha's playstyle and has done for so many years. There are few players out there as disciplined as Rapha when it comes to regular practice, the analysis, the understanding of, if I lose, why do I lose? What do I have to do better here? The understanding of every single opponent that he plays, the fact that he's happy to practice with all kinds of different players, because the more you know about your player, the reality is, folks, this is a 1v1 esport. It's knowing your enemy. It's knowing the game on one side and knowing who is in control of the game on the other side of it. And Rapha just seems to have that perfect mesh of all of those things together, to the point where it's no surprise he's, you know, of the caliber he is held up. However, RAISY made it so damn close. And I have to give final props for the recovery on that second map, because most players would not have been able to recover from that. Somehow he did. Somehow he brought it into a final game scenario.
Absolutely, both players went the distance, and that was a fitting conclusion to a wonderful day of matches, right? We started off Kron versus Dramis, Dramis getting the 3-0, then we had Kilson versus Tox, Kilson getting the 3-0, Sib versus Maxter, Maxter 2-1, Chain versus Strong Sage edging out the win, 2-1 as well, Chain getting that final map still. We even got the results on the screen, don't even need to look at my notes.
Thanks, production, love you.
Thanks, production. And then we had Vanguard 3-0 versus Zenikum. Game was a lot closer than what that scoreline would suggest, before concluding with the highlight, Rapha versus RAISY.
And sadly, Flea, that's all we have time for today. But as always, I want to extend a massive thank you to multiple folks. I want to say a huge thank you to you lovely people at home for tuning in and watching the show. Get involved in social media, hashtag Quake Pro League. Make sure you're tuning into the stream here. Make sure you check out the VODs, which are found on the Quake YouTube channel. All of the matches get put on there, including the matchup today between, if I'm not mistaken, it was Avec and Cygib that was rescheduled. You will no doubt see that match on the YouTube channel at a later date. I want to thank mostly the production team behind the scenes. I know we started off with some technical trouble, but very much thank you to you folks there for basically rolling with it and getting us back online, all things considered, in pretty fast turnaround, especially at the start of the show. So thank you so much for all that. And thank you, Flea, for joining me on this virtual desk. It's always a pleasure.
You're welcome, Ketchup. You're welcome. No, nothing to add to that, of course. And thanks, of course, to the people at home for watching. I think that next week we've got another Challengers coming up, so definitely do keep an eye out for that. But shortly afterwards, we will be returning with the scheduled rotation of the Quake Pro League, as there are 6 more weeklies left until we conclude with the season finals at QuakeCon.
That's all we have time for, folks. Take care, look after yourselves, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.